Good morning and welcome to London. We are here live at the London Invite, preparing for the Open semi-final. My name is Sean Colfer, joined in the booth by Hannah Pendlebury. Hannah, how are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you, Sean. How are you doing?
I am well. I am well.
I hear you were at a Frisbee birthday party yesterday evening with some bowling action.
Yes, I was at a birthday party and everyone had a nice time. And I'm ready to see a game between two of the best teams in Europe on this swelteringly hot 3G field. It is obviously early in the morning here in London, but that has not stopped the temperature feeling like it's about 35 degrees. This 3G is really soaking in the heat, and these teams are going to have to play in pretty punishing conditions, and we're not even halfway through the day yet, so it's going to be pretty tough to run around on here, I'd say.
Yeah, we had some really lovely conditions yesterday in terms of it was a very still day. There was a little bit of cloud cover every so often, but there is not a pinch of fluff in the sky today.
Yeah.
Real great conditions for the local airport, of course, not too far from Heathrow, plenty of planes flying overhead. But because obviously the sky is so clear, it is significantly more windy today than it was yesterday, which will have the benefit of keeping people cool, but also will really change up the way the game is played.
It will. Wind is coming, as you're looking at it, the wind is basically coming from behind the camera across the pitch. So it's largely a crosswind. Very, very hot, but I'm sure both these teams will be fine. Belgium with a relatively short roster. We saw them yesterday play against Germany on the show field. They're a very, very good team. They only have 16 players, although they were resting somebody yesterday. And if they are not resting all their players, then they have 17. But even still, not very many players on their roster, a couple of injuries, whereas GB pretty much have the squad that's going to be going to EUC in Limerick. There's a few people that aren't playing. Ollie Gordon over on the far sideline in trainers, wasn't playing yesterday, doesn't appear to be playing today. But GB numerically certainly have the advantage here.
Yeah, and obviously they know a lot of them will have been sleeping in their own beds. There's a lot of London talent on the GB squad this season. I think in terms of, the way the Belgians played yesterday, they didn't really rely on massive, huge plays. They were extremely patient, just taking the opportunities they needed to, being creative with the disc, making the disc do the work rather than all the time being their legs. They have obviously got incredible receivers and a lot of very young talent, plenty of crossover from their roster for the Under-24 Championship in Nottingham. This, of course, not the pinnacle of the crown for either team, so we're not expecting too much in the way of people throwing themselves here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, both teams have bigger goals than winning the London Invite, but I'm sure they're both going to want to try and reach the final, where they may well meet Germany. We will see, but a roller pull to start things off from Conrad Wilson. And Belgium are going to start the game with the disc on the sideline. Coming out in a 3-4 set. It's with the volley to Muller. GB coming out in a match D, looking for Dan de Murray in the handler space. Swings it to this near side. Toby de Granier. Muller again. De Murray in the middle now with the disc. Surveying the field. Goes to Muller. GB clearly making it hard here. There's a pick called. Belgium moving it quite nicely. GB with that match D, starting out pretty vanilla. It's exactly what you would expect early on in a second day of a tournament. Beckman's on the disc. Beckman's to de Murray. And a blown switch leaves Toby de Granier wide open on the front corner on the open side. And that is 1-0 to Belgium.
Yeah, the softness of the coverage there, I thought, oh, maybe that's not quite the end zone cone, but it certainly was. As you say, a bit of miscommunication for GB on the D there, but they didn't quite have the same fire and intensity on that point. Obviously, first game of the day, first point of the game, starting off, maybe a little bit softer with those plush pillows and mattresses they slept on of their own last night. But yeah, a really nice bit of patience from the Belgians. They, you know, just took their time with it. Happy to, again, like I say, make the disc do the work rather than using their legs too much, which is smart management. If the O-line can keep punching them in that quickly and that swiftly and that just smoothly, then this will be a very interesting game indeed.
Yes, we're going to see the Belgian D-line for the first time. So they were resting Ben Yonkers yesterday. He wasn't playing in some of their later games. Doesn't appear to be playing today. I don't see him in his kit, in his boots on the sideline. So it may well be that he's resting today as well. Still a very talented team, this Belgian outfit, without Yonkers, without Ref Yonkers, we talked about yesterday. Ref with a knee injury picked up at Windmill. We certainly hope he's back playing soon, but GB's O-line is going to be coming out. Long is going to be bringing it to the brick mark. Pull went straight out the back. Big pull as well with an OI angle to go all the way out the back. That's a very big pull. Yeah,
a little bit too big though. A bit of a waste of all that energy. And an update to respond to your live chat. Ashio not playing today, still recovering from that split toe.
Yeah, he's in trainers on the sideline as well. He was here yesterday, he's here today. So GB with the disc and Belgium playing a zone that we saw them play against Germany yesterday, kind of a 2-3-2. Two chases up front and very switchy downfield. Long in the center. Fakes towards Mead, gets one of the chases on the ground. Long to Ford. Ford to Abrams. GB very happy to just pop it around in the handler space, not looking downfield. Rowledge has loads of space downfield if they require it, but they're moving it pretty effectively. Abrams with the disc. There's two handlers in the same space there. Over to Mead. Cartwright. Belgium have come out of that D. Mead with the disc. Looks for Long, but put out in front of him. I'm not sure Long was expecting that, and that is a easy turnover for the Belgian D-line.
Yeah, I like coming out of the zone, you know, straight first point for your D-line, especially on the first game, really causes those confusions.
So Belgium's D-line with a look at the end zone to try and punch in a break to extend their lead. Heymans with the disc. GB coming out with a match. Over on this far side. Simons to Derrick. Okay. A nice throw to Zwarts, but Zwarts can't quite reel it in, can't quite get his hands around it. Wasn't fully, didn't have his hands exactly in the right place and just can't reel it in.
He had a couple of goes and I think he's tacoed the disc actually.
Forward with this now, Mead. Again, that far side is open, but GB just working it underneath instead. Long with this now, inside to Ford. Haynes with lots of space in the middle, but instead we come to Mead. Over to Haynes. Zwarts has a go at that. Ford with the disc. Belgium in a match now. Mead to Rowledge. Rowledge to Long, and Long again gets his hand on it, and that is just a straight drop for GB. Two execution errors in the early offing here.
Well, this is an interesting kind of matchup because, of course, at Tom's tourney, you saw GB Open be sort of taken apart a little bit by Mooncatchers fairly handily in, I believe, either the quarter or the semi-final. So maybe a little bit of a just mental challenge for GB to try and overcome against these Belgian lads.
Abrams puts some pressure on that swing, can't bring it in. Okay, on the disc. Gets it off the sideline, but just too far in front of Simons. Not quite the execution we've been looking for. Had to lay out for it. It was GB putting pressure on the Belgian offense there, and GB's O-line with the disc back for the third time. Mead goes up line. Fakes to Cartwright. Back to Ford. Rowledge attacks the underspace, but Ford instead decides to throw it and hit the deck. Mead to Abrams. Abrams looking for Haynes, and it's another turnover. That is 3 turnovers on the GBO line at this point. And Belgium's D-line with a third chance to try and put it away. Can they be calmer this time around?
Well, looking at the body language, they are playing frustrated almost with each other. That might be too far, and it is.
Yeah, Verica's looking for Simons on the swing, and there's very loose offense from both teams here. You have early in the semi-final of this competition, both teams having played well yesterday, you'd expect both teams potentially to be a bit more restrained this early in the day, but we've seen 6 turnovers in this game, so it's with Rollage on the near sideline. Ford just absolutely burns up line, tries to go in, can't quite get there, basically lands on the line. Back to Rollage. Now Mead. Mead to Cartwright. And Ford catches it in the end zone for the score. GB holding, but that was an incredibly difficult hold. They had to move the disc a lot, move the disc in their handler space a lot. And they had 3 turnovers, which is unusual. You would see a team of the level of GB Opens, you would see them turn 3 times usually in 4 or 5 points, but we had 3 turns in the first point of the game for them, first offensive point of the game. And Belgium's D-line had looks at it, had chances, but again, too frantic, couldn't quite move the disc down the field, Hannah, and just couldn't capitalize on the opportunities that GB were presenting them.
Yeah, a very suboptimal start to the game for Great Britain, and certainly, you know, some things for the D-line of the Belgians to really think about.
Yeah, some of the turnovers as well, just not even the system's not working, just not being able to execute. Veric is over to Simons on that far side, just popping it in the air too far. As we see a replay of the score, Ford catching in the end zone. It is certainly windier today than it was yesterday. We feel the wind, as I said, coming from behind the camera across the field.
It's literally causing chaos in our booth.
Yeah, but we are professionals. We will carry on despite the mild chaos. And it's a good pull from Conrad Wilson. Lands just outside the end zone for Belgium's O-line. Van der Wigge goes deep. PT and de Meulenaar's underneath it. Conrad Wilson looking to get position. And that is a fantastic snag from PT and de Meulenaar. It looked to me as though Conrad Wilson had the position there, and de Meulenaar just goes over the top of him and rips it away, but there looks like there's some kind of call.
Yeah, I think Hayden Slaughter signaling there that there was a bit of a push-off going on. Let's have a look at the replay, sort of slow-mo style. Definitely sort of, you know, from behind the pack. Let's have a look at this momentum. Oh, it does look a lot like PJ goes relatively straight up in the air, maybe a bit too much hand touching, but considering that looks relatively clean, but obviously it's not how it looks, it's how it feels to the players on the pitch. Yes,
that is a thing. I mean, there's obviously contact between Slaughter and de Meulenaar, but I think that contact is probably before the disc is even in the vicinity, and de Meulenaar just goes up over the top of everybody and rips it down. De Meulenaar, one of the best receivers in Europe for a long time, very, very good in the air, tall man.
Certainly a bit of a Slaughter sandwich there. You've got you know, sandwich between Wilson and de Meulenaar. And it's a humbling moment when you're a particularly tall player to look around yourself and be like, hold on, who just roofed me?
Yeah. I would guess they're going to have a discussion here, and it doesn't make a huge difference to the play.
Possibly go back? No, it looks like PJ's keeping the disc in his hand.
It does look like we're resetting. People downfield are getting back into position. It was a fantastic throw from Van der Wigge, and we are indeed going back. So a contested foul called by GB, and it's going to go back to Van der Wigge in his own half, basically just 4 or 5 meters outside his own end zone.
Although we have to credit it, that was an amazing catch.
Great catch, great catch.
Just not quite clean enough.
So Belgium back with the disc. Beckmans. And de Meulenaar comes underneath. Belgium getting some early flow. Just not quite in on that front corner over there. We come all the way across, and de Garnier with a nice pass finds Van der Rust And it is another hold for Belgium, and Belgium's O-line been out twice and much more serene than GB O-line at this point.
We've talked a lot this season about Mooncatchers for obvious reasons, obviously coming off the back of triple final success on the club level. Last, of course, seeing them at Windmill looking pretty dominant fashion, but we've credited a lot of the fact that the Mooncatchers have a lot of flexibility, and with such a strong roster overlap, of course, you know, those spots being filled up by the likes of Gentle, Jet Set, lots of Belgian talent coming through the youth programs. We have the same coach and the same level of flexibility. We saw obviously that, you know, that catch that wasn't quite clean enough for PJ van der goodness gracious me. Yeah, certainly in terms of that kind of response then after the disc was sent back, a real just display of their flexibility. You know, they're also happy to work it through. Real calm, patient stuff, using the open side, just using the legs, and then the creativity to bring it across to the break side. Very promising for the Belgians.
Yeah, got it over to Diwali on that far side, and they were able to just work it around, find space, came to Garnier, and it's a pretty easy score in the end. So a big pull from Belgium. It looks as though that's just about landed out. I think GB will be bricking that. Looks like it landed just out, or did it land maybe just in and go over the line? So they'll be bringing it to the front of the end zone. Looks that way from the setup, and we have a very clear indication from the Belgians in how they're setting up here that GB are going to be playing against this zone for the second time. Fuse is the deepest, and everybody is in a pretty tight space here. Fuse is well underneath halfway.
We're using the wind effectively. It has now become a crosswind right to left on our camera screen. So we're using the elements to just make sure those deep shots, as we saw in the last point for the Belgians, are going to sit and hang.
Yeah. So 4 goes through the zone to Funk. Funk and Mead play a little bit of pitch and catch to make up some yards, and Ford has that hammer cocked for a few seconds over to Rolich on that far side. East now with plenty of space. No mark, looking around, assessing his options. We are back in match with the Belgian D-line. Abrams now. Ford operating pretty much exclusively that handler space so far, looking for an option in the end zone. Funk is running shots across the front of the end zone, just outside, has the disc. And Cartwright just hangs around in that space, drags his toe, gets the score. Much, much better execution by the GBO line there.
Absolutely, and powered largely by kind of just explosive movement from behind the disc. You know, you see a lot of teams trying to throw over the top of the zones, and obviously that soft hammer over to Will Rolich was very nice. Again, really displaying kind of the wind condition. It isn't the super gusty kind of affair, which is quite pleasant. It is fairly consistent. Does rise and fall a little bit though, as wind tends to do. But certainly pushing through from the back, using the legs, keeping the throws relatively easy, more or less, apart from where obviously there are those isolated players on the wings. And then, yeah, just keeping it flowing and easy. But that was a point largely on the back of Justin Ford, so GB able to rely on some of their stars. Yeah,
you can see that Cartwright catch the score. It does look as though his defender basically was like, well, he's not going to catch it there. He's right behind the force, so I'm going to hang out over here. And Cartwright just stood there and got the easy score. But yeah, you're right, Justin Ford in that handler space. We're obviously used to Justin playing downfield, being one of the most dominant cutters in Europe for the last decade or so. But he's operating pretty much exclusively in the handler space here. And it's another pull that has gone an absolute mile. That has gone well out the back of the end zone from Conrad Wilson. The wind really pushing it further. We talked yesterday, Hannah, about some of the OI shapes that, as you're looking at the field here, going from right to left, those kind of rolly backhands just being pushed further and further and further away. And I think that's going to be the story of today as well, because those throws are going to go even further today in the extra gust.
Well, sometimes it can be harder to actually execute on the downwind than it is on the upwind shots, and maybe we're going to have one of those games.
Van der Vega with the disc goes to Van der Rost. GB again coming out in a pretty straight match mark. Van der Vega. Good D downfield from GB is limiting Belgium's options. Dan Demarais goes deep, looking for de Garnier, being marked by Wilson. And De Garnier goes up early and will be calling a strip there, I think. Looked to me as though De Garnier got there first, but did he have full control will be the question they're talking about.
Well, the only man who will know is De Garnier himself, but that did look very, very close. So if he's calling a strip, I think that's it's a realistic call.
My first look at that was that is a strip. The replay looks pretty strippy to me.
Well, we have a little cluster of players in front of our screen having a little look, and it's going to be called on the field as a goal. So Toby De Garnier did get enough control and punches in the next point for the Belgians. Of course, we haven't seen any downwind breaks of score yet, because clearly GB chose to have the advantage of the wind at their backs. Yes,
all hold so far, although certainly the Belgians seem to be a little more clinical than GB, as we saw in that first GB O-line point. Lots of turns, but Toby De Garnier going up early there. I think that's the key point with that. He's matched up against Conrad Wilson, who is taller. Wilson, as you can see, is trailing there, trying to take away the underneath. De Garnier, excellent athlete, has been very good for Gentle the last few years, and you can see he goes up first. He goes up early, gets that space, gets his hand around the disc. Wilson's always reacting and just knocks it away after De Garnier's wrapped his hands around it. I think a good call, good spirit by both teams there.
I'll tell you what, these Belgian lads must have some fantastic libraries, because their reading capabilities are insane. Not just in this game, but generally across the season so far. I mean, there have been not a large volume of sky balls. Usually, you know, the throwing prowess of the Belgian teams has been pretty on point, but at the moment, they're really coming down at the main portion of the season with a lot of this kind of discs out of the pack. Certainly some insane receptions at the windmill final from De Marais.
Yeah, Dan De Marais with an absolutely outrageous game in the windmill final, and has been fantastic for Belgium Open so far at this tournament. Another good pull to the back of the end zone, fielded by Funk and Mead, and they play a little bit of pop back and forth. It's with Mead at the front of the end zone. Belgium back out in this zone.
Yeah, when you've got the wind behind you, putting a proper blade on that backhand to make it roll is really effective.
Haynes with the disc to Mead. GB very happy to just work through this a bit at a time. As I say that, Mead goes through the zone to East, and Belgium have come out of a zone, and we are now in match. Haynes with the disc, surveying his options. East has space, but so does Funk. A bid late on, but Ben Funk had enough space that it was a relatively straightforward catch, and a nice offensive point by GB. Worked through that zone very nicely. Made Belgium switch out of it a lot earlier than they would have wanted to, and a good hold.
Yeah, a nice attempt there to try and get the block for Emile Delic, but at the end of the day, it wasn't quite the right position for it, and a nicely placed disc from Great Britain. Good execution. I think that's Haynes with the assist.
Yes, I think so, and it's just one of those, you're not quite in position. You can see as the replay plays out in front of us, he had two options. Ben Funk is wide open. Just a little bit of a blown coverage on the open side. Throws himself at it, Delic, to try and make it a bit harder, but an easy catch for a player the quality of Ben Funk. That's us, as you can see.
I'm hiding behind the...
Sitting in the shade because the heat is brutal.
It is definitely unpleasant for... I made a joke yesterday, Sean. I was walking around the pitches and I bumped into one of my friends and I said, "Come to England," they said. "It'll be cold," they said.
Yeah,
it is sweltering.
Wilson with a slightly flatter pull, lands just outside the end zone, rolls to the back, and Belgium field it and are just outside their own end zone. Deck Cartwright close there. Marco Muller goes to pick it up. It looks like there's a pick. It's going to go back to Diwali on this near side, marked by Deck Cartwright. Belgium out in that 3-4 again. All the 10s in the handler spot. De Molinari. Looking to get up the sideline. Looks with Demare. Good mark by Conrad Wilson. Limits the options, but there's a blown coverage downfield. Goes to Marco Muller, but Muller can't reel it in. Just had too much time, maybe.
Yeah, Mathieu Muller there. Under some pressure, but I think losing the disc in the sun, but that's a lot of pressure, and I would... Nope, that's clean.
I expected a foul call there. There was a lot of contact between Molinari and Wilson, but Wilson's happy with it, and Belgium get it back on the first pass.
Well, to be fair, I think in some of those situations, it's the who really caused the contact. Fair fight between the two lads. It's a really fun matchup watching Wilson and PJ.
And there appears to be a stoppage for a travel here, which is not a stoppage. I don't know why everyone stopped.
If you don't adjust, then I guess violation call. So not a stoppage for the travel itself.
Anyway, Van der Vega, Demarais. Belgium on the doorstep. A low throw by Demarais going all the way underneath to try and get an angle to throw to Van der Rust there. And Van der Rust with his toes the right side of the line. And Belgium execute, but that is the Belgium O-line's first turnover we saw there.
Yeah, turns out they're only human like us. But no, that's an interesting one. And again, we're seeing on this sort of windy side of the pitch, the Belgians being really effective at exploiting kind of the break side. Sort of, it does, I don't know if it's necessarily super intentional, but they're sort of stacking over towards the kind of the open side of the pitch, which really is, you're ending up with all of the GB players kind of clustered together on that far sideline, trying to kind of, you know, play D, protect the open side, do their job when they're playing match. But it means that there is more space, and it's a difficult throw, a really difficult throw into that wind to try and make those shapely ones on it. And that one, obviously, what we saw for the score from Demarais nearly ended up just in the turf. Great pickup for Van der Rust, but you can see there they're really taking on the force, but all but one GB player sort of sat on that break side.
Yes, an interesting point to Molinari. Looked like he was on a high stall. Goes to Matthew Muller. Can't reel it in, and the turnover, maybe Wilson had already dropped it before there was contact. That could be the reason for the no call, because there was certainly some contact there. But a hold for Belgium's O-line. They are up 4-3, and another big pull that lands in and rolls out the back. So Long this time will be bringing it to the front of the end zone, and it looks again as though Belgium will be coming out in that zone, which has done a very good job so far limiting GB and making them work through it inch by inch.
Yeah, it hasn't generated a turn every single time, but I like the pressure it's putting on, and certainly, you know, slowing down GB's big athletes is always going to be an issue for, well, not an issue, but an objective of every team.
It does look as though Belgium in match, actually. They came down, looked as though they were setting up to play in the zone, and instead the handler marks fanned out, and they're in match. So GB's offense looking for some space. Very tight D all over the field. Cartwright with his foot on his own cone. Long with the disc. Ford clears the space in front of the disc with Haynes. Haynes gives it to Abrams. Abrams just by the brick mark. Long looking for space, finds Ford. Ford goes deep, looking for Robbie Haynes. Haynes has space, but it's going to hang in that wind. And Fewers knocks it away, gets there just in time, sat up in the wind. Haynes looked like he had space, but very, very well closed down by Fewers. It's
a really, again, hanging shot into this wind. Very, very difficult to kind of, you know, win that one if you've not got kind of the separation against these Belgian defenders. And in Arthur Fewers, massive from him, added to the squad last week.
You could see as well the momentum. Haynes had to slow down. Fewers was able to just continue his momentum, go all the way through, explode off that plant leg and go up and get the disc. But there is another swing from Belgium that sits up in the wind, and it looks as though Josh East is saying he had his hands on that before Verican.
He did.
Yeah, I think so.
he may not be the tallest player in the world, but East's vert is pretty insane.
Very explosive player, and everyone agrees, and the disc is with East. So GB's O-line with their hands back on the Frisbee. It's now with Josh East. Just by the attacking brick mark to Abrams. Tom Abrams throws it over to Cartwright. Cartwright just outside the end zone. We've been here before. Abrams on the reset. Looking for option, goes to Josh East. Bid comes in too late. East had enough separation, and another conversion for the GBO line, but another turnover for that line. They're struggling a little to keep that momentum and to have the kind of clean execution we've been seeing from Belgium.
Yeah, thus far, we have seen 2 clean holds out of Great Britain, but that wasn't one of them. So something for them to, you know, work on and improve. Of course, GB won the gold at EUC back in 2019, and they'll have their eyes on that medal once more. But certainly going to be a real tough fight for them to get through, likes of Germany Open, Belgium Open, some other very talented squads. Of course, the French also looking absolutely fantastic.
Had a good windmill, yeah.
Indeed. So, plenty to work on. Not the first GB cap for Jost East by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, having come through the juniors program and playing some beach and indoors as well. But
yep, he's on the mixed under-24 team this cycle as well, so he'll be playing in Nottingham, having a week off, and then going to Limerick with the Open team. So,
oh, these young athletes able to play all these events and stay in peak condition.
Yeah.
How do they do it?
It's going to be challenging, but I'm sure they'll do it. Obviously, a lot of the guys on this Belgian Open team doing the same, and that is a throw from de Molinari to Demarais. I'm not sure it was Demarais, but it completes, and Dan Demarais now with the disc.
Lightning reflexes.
De Garnier on the far sideline. Belgium moving the disc quite well, but it is sitting in this wind. Oscar Modiano goes up extremely early, doesn't quite get there. Vivale with the disc. Van de Vega. Van de Vega looking to get it off the line, goes back to Demarais. Swung over to de Garnier. And a foul upfield. Modiano just trying to get a bit too close to Vivale, clips his heels, uncontested foul. So we'll have a reset stall for Toby de Garnier. De Garnier comes back to Dan Demarais on halfway. And Demarais calls a foul. Looks like Roger Williams just touched him with the shoulder there. So another reset stall for Belgium. Demarais with the disc. De Garnier, Belgium been pushed back quite a lot here. Back at halfway after working it all the way inside the GB half. It's with de Molinari. Molinari looking to break the mark. Gets that inside shot to Van de Vega. De Garnier keeps momentum going. Demarais, Van der Rust. And it goes for Beckmans, but Bignall just swats it away. There was very, very little space there, looking for a lateral cut from Beckmans. And Bignall absolutely swats it, and GB have the disc. So GB's D-line with the Frisbee. GB looking to move it with Roger Williams on the near sideline. Williams breaks the mark of Demarais. Conrad Wilson extends out to try and catch it. He dragged his toe to try and keep it in, but it did look to me as though he was out. I don't think he managed to reel that in time. I think, are we going to come and look at the screens here? It looked to me as though he was out. Yeah, the players come over to try and get another view of it. Slows all the way down.
Hard to see.
The question is whether Wilson was able. He's clearly reeled it in while dragging his foot, but it's whether the foot that he's trying to drag was in when it happened. It looked as though you see the tape move at the last minute, and it's whether that right foot for Wilson was down. You see the tape move. It's close. It's close.
And obviously we're not beach rules, so you're not allowed to do put the foot under the tape and drag it with you. It's outdoor rules, so on the tape would be out.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
It's a really close one. They have the option of sending it back if they can't figure it out.
Yeah. And I think one of the players just saying exactly what Hannah just said. Sounds contested. Wanted to go back. Wilson is honestly in full speed.
I love the nerdery. I think the fairest resolution is probably go back. We haven't got a really, we only have the hard-working, wonderful Nicholas Ho out there.
Yeah.
Working cam 2. Oh no, it's not Nick. Sorry, Nick was wearing his bucket hat earlier. I tell a lie. That's the wonderful Isaac.
In full speed, I honestly thought that was a mile out, but Wilson did a really good job dragging his toe, making it look close. I mean, if he wasn't in, he was extremely close. And the players agree that it's difficult to tell, so we go back to Roger Williams with the disc. Over to Bignell. Bignell to Warnock. GB's D-line moving this quite nicely here. Comes over to this near sideline again. Bignell gets some space to Wilson. Modiano comes flat across, but instead we have a break just too far. GB's D-line, though, looking good with the disc until that turnover.
Yeah, with the difficulty of which teams are executing sort of, when they are going with the wind, we see a timeout call there. That would be a real big momentum point potentially for this game. The first team to get that downwind break and then kind of, potentially take advantage of the upwind, can you believe?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Belgian O-line comes out with here. They were playing well, but turnover, I think they're taking a timeout. We're going to take a quick break as well as we wait to see what the Belgian O-line is going to come out with. But it's a tight game here. We'll be back with you soon.
I will arise and go soon to the Isle of Emerald Green, and watch my mighty heroes go to battle on the screen. Where the ocean kisses Ireland, Shannon's tears of joy flow. That lovely Lady Limerick invites us to the show. From mighty glens and rugged hills, bays and braes raise a sláinte. Ganairi an bóthar leat, agus céad míle fáilte.
Welcome back to the London Invite. The semi-final between Great Britain and Belgium, tied up at 4-4. The O-lines executing all the points so far, but as we have gone along, they've been a little more frantic, a little more fractured. We've seen the D-lines get their hands on the disc a bit more, but Belgium calling a timeout to get their offense set here, Hannah.
Indeed, and quite rightly so. This is the second turnover for the Belgian D-line. Not D-line, O-line, of course. Goodness sakes, Hannah, put your brain back in. But we're glad to have lots of love in the chat. Lots of Belgian favourites. And of course, glad to be bringing this coverage. A big shout out again, obviously, to Ref Yonkers, who's not with us because he's recovering.
It's a very convincing fate from Van der Vega. It sold me, it sold the sideline, it sold his mark. But instead, Belgium playing small ball, and it's with de Molinari, Van der Rost, pick call downfield. Looks like Modiano slowed slightly, chasing after De Valle, trying to get around Magnus Wilson. So he reset upfield, and it's Van der Rost with the disc. Basically on the Brit mark. De Cronier. De Cronier goes deep to Molinari, and an absolutely beautiful shot from De Cronier. Not that high, not a big loopy shot. We've seen some of those sit in the wind, but he lasers it in. De Molinari reels it in, just too far for Wilson. And out of that timeout, nice offensive execution from Belgium. You don't always see that.
Well, yes, we often call them time overs, or turnouts.
Turnout, yeah.
But I think this, again, using that to their advantage, things getting a bit flustery in the breeze, and some really nice, again, we're seeing that sort of patient rhythm, looking for opportunities. I think the turnovers that have been caused for the Belgian O-line thus far have been when they're taking slightly riskier shots than they need to.
Yes, yes. But a nice offensive execution out of the timeout. You see Van der Rost goes to De Cronier, and De Cronier just puts it out into a space that only De Molinari can go and get it, despite the attention of two GB defenders. I mean, it's might be difficult to tell on the stream how windy it is, but the wind really is quite consistent and quite strong for a lovely day here in West London. It is quite windy, and these teams are definitely having to adapt to that. Another big pull. Lands in and goes out the back of the end zone. Abrams will field it and bring it to the front of the end zone. Belgium back out in this match D. Abrams with the disc to Mead in his own end zone. East making yards there. A little bit of a bump on the mark.
A little bit.
There's a pick. Looks like a pick. Looks to me as though Belgium are FM here. Was it a foul?
Foul call. Coming on 0.
It was definitely, we saw the pretty obvious bump on the mark. With Rowledge. Over to Mead. With Ben Funk on the far sideline. Funk to Ford. Ford with an inside to Cartwright. Another bump on the mark and another foul called. Belgium gone to an all backhand mark here. That's Cartwright on the disc with no stall. Mead's looking to get some space. Comes back to Ford instead. Rowledge is at the front here. Ford throws through the contact. Rowledge with the disc. Mead cuts all the way through. Goes all the way through that kind of poach off in the lane. Just continues his cut all the way through. Drags his foot on the front cone. And GB with the score, but had to play through a fair amount of contact from the Belgians there. Belgium maybe stepping up the physicality to try and get the GB line out of rhythm.
Well, to be honest, it seems to have had the opposite effect. Maybe bumping on the mark is what gives GB their sense of being more at home. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I really, it's been a long established thing. And you do see it in all the divisions. It's not just an open division sort of idea, but this kind of concept of, you know, bumping on the mark to stop the initial throw from going off. Yeah. It's not in the rules.
No,
I don't like it.
It is a foul.
And obviously, back in the day when you only had the ability to call foul, as we saw Cartwright do, that stops your flow. It stops your play, completely interrupts. Yes, okay, you get the disc starting from 0, but a static disc starting from 0 is one of the hardest throws on the field.
Yes.
Many coaches will say it is the hardest throw.
Lets the D set as well. Everyone stops, lets the D set and prepare.
Exactly. So it's not something I'm really fond of seeing. Hopefully we see that disappear quite quickly in the game, because they are quite obvious bumps.
You saw as well Ford get bumped pretty hard and throw all the way through the contact, which is always risky, because if you turn over there,
yeah, if you
is that still going to be a foul?
If you still choose to do it, and it's, you know, the foul happened before the person goes to execute the throw. If you throw it anyway, you can't really have it back.
So another big pull from Conrad Wilson. We have been seeing both teams pull kind of the wind behind them, trying to get it as far as possible without getting it out the back. But Wilson on that instance throws it out the back of the end zone. So Belgium brick it with Dan Demarais, and now moving down the sideline with Beckmans. Beckmans looking at Demarais. Demarais stutter step to get free, has the disc. Muller. Van de Vega. Beckman's working hard to get space. Manages to escape the attention of Hayden Slaughter. Muller again. Inside to Beckmans. Moon catches teammates linking up. And Beckmans goes to Muller. Great layout catch from Muller with the left hand. A tough point for Belgium. They had to work hard for it, but that's a nice execution from the O-line.
Well, that was a very high difficulty catch, made look very easy by Mathieu Muller. And we gave him a shout out in the prior game we had on the live stream, but a big hello to Muller's 4-month-old son, little Victor, who will be, I'm sure, watching this one back when he's old enough to understand what ultimate frisbee is.
I was going to say, he has no idea that we're shouting him out. He's far too young.
No, but his dad's asked us to do it so that he he knows. But he also did actually get a chance to catch up with Mathieu Muller yesterday and let him know that we'd given him, you know, his shout out on the stream. And he did show me a picture in a lovely, cool sort of blue swaddly cloth thing. It's very, very, very cute.
Looks like a baby, I imagine.
Pretty much looks like a baby.
Well, hello to Victor, and hello to that wonderful layout catch by Mathieu Muller, as you see on the replay. Extends that left paw out and reels it in.
Yes, it's not so much of a hello, it's more of a hello. What a nice grab.
Yeah, yeah, very, very good catch. But that was certainly an instance of GB's D-line forcing Belgium to work very hard. We saw Beckman's having to make 3 or 4 movements to get free. Beckman's and Muller basically running the point between them, but having to run hard. And with a pretty short line, Belgium with 16 players. In this heat, having to run hard is going to be harder and harder as we go through.
But they are being very efficient with the disc. You know, they're not really sort of having to run hard and keep going and keep going and keep going. They could possibly take more of the opportunities GB have given them and run their D-line a little bit less. But actually on offense, the execution rate is quite good.
Back to match with the Belgian D-line, but they're quite saggy on the handlers here, trying to force GB to move it back and forth between the handlers and not go upfield. It's with Abrams. Abrams to Ford in the center of the field. Good switch by the Belgian D-line. Ford over to Mead. Mead being marked by Demarais, who's back out, playing double duty. To Ford.
Yeah, I'm not sure Demarais left the pitch at all for Jet Set back in Leuven and didn't leave the pitch much for Moon at Windmill.
No, the man is an Iron Man. He's playing a lot of points, and he's playing a lot of points for Belgium here as well. Long now with the disc. GB have worked it up nicely, just taking the open passes, playing sensibly. Long clears the space. Rolich goes back inside. Nice inside from Mead. Rolich looking for options. Abrams has space on that break side. Rolich puts it out. It's a nice reel in by Abrams.
Very nice.
Looking to get it off the sideline. Back to Rolich. To Ford. And Ford pops it out on the open side for Cartwright. Cartwright was free as he started moving with the disc. He was free all the way across. Gets it from Ford. Easy execution from Great Britain, and very, very good offensive patience and sensible decision making from their O-line there.
Yeah, of the 6 holds that Great Britain have had so far, of course, neither team yet to really get too much of a look at a break since the second point in this game, where Belgium had 4 chances that they squandered. We're starting to see GB's O-line be a bit more, well, say, look at that sort of redemption pass from Mum there. They are being a little bit more conservative. They're not giving too many looks at the Belgians to get proper blocks. They're just, you know, having maybe some risky ones where they're having to adjust themselves, but they are doing it well and starting to find a bit more just confidence, I think.
Yes, and it looks like one of the teams has called a timeout. We're seeing lots of holds so far, so I'm sure they're talking about how to get the first break. We'll be back out with Belgium out on offense soon, but as the team's taking a break, we're going to take a quick one as well.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
We are Hive Ultimate, a group of players and coaches from all over the world working together to progress the next generation of Ultimate strategy. We've helped top teams win world championships and new teams introduce the sport in a fun and inclusive way. Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn more about our cutting-edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans, and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
Welcome back to the London Invite. The wind has picked up even more here. Our shade almost blew into the pitch, but well saved by Statman Ed.
He's a versatile human being. Really, you know, he's a workhorse. You can put him anywhere. Out here, every game, keeping us full of stat. We tried to give him a break yesterday. He nearly got a full break, apart from us having to sort ourselves out some dinner. But the true hero of Ultimate tournaments.
Good pull from GB, pins Belgium on the back of the end zone, and we have Will Rolich and Justin Ford out on this D-line to try and get the first break of the game. And it looks like it's a zoney set here. Roger Williams up front. It's like a 2-3-2 maybe, or is it a... No, it's a 3 up front. Belgium working it side to side patiently, despite this change of D. And here, GB calling the number of passes. Looks like we've come to match now. De Molinari to De Garnier. De Garnier having a good game so far. Diwali with the disc, looking for options. Diwali goes all the way over to Van der Rust.
Oh, I like that throw so much.
It's a very good throw, expansive in the way it just opens the field up. And Van der Rust finds Toby De Garnier, and Belgium dealt very well with that different look that the GB presented.
Well, that's advanced level ultimate for you. A lot of people would just focus on the near side sort of handler position, trying to just squeak one out, but actually putting that one, I think it was to Van der Rust, on the far side, really just sitting it, allowing it to sort of, you know, not be pushed too much by the wind.
Yeah, it was a nice throw. You see, opens up the field. Van der Rust with the disc there. GB scrambling, and De Garnier has the horizontal separation, and it's a nice inside shot to him for the score. So this Belgium O-line still executing very well. O-lines have very much been in the ascendancy here, and Belgium coming out. It's 7-6 up, looking to take half here.
Indeed, or we could get a Galaxy point.
You would expect we will, given how the game's gone so far. But Belgium look to be stacking this D-line somewhat. Looks to me as though Toby De Garnier and Dan Demarais are both coming out on this D-line. Have been playing O so far, but two of Belgium's best athletes.
Well, it's a smart choice. The Belgians had offense to start off this game, so taking that first break will really give them a big advantage coming into the second. They won't get, of course, though, the buy one, get one free coming out on D on the second.
So the spin pull from De Rick, which is what we've been seeing pretty much every time out so far.
It works. I like it.
Yeah, it's been getting good distance. It's been pinning GB in uncovered positions, and Abrams absolutely rips it deep to Cartwright. Cartwright, I thought he laid out too late, but that is an absolutely fantastic catch with the left hand. And he's now on the doorstep. Demarais trying to catch up to the disc, can't quite get there. East reels it in. And what do we have, Hannah?
We have a Galaxy point, Sean.
Yeah, Galaxy points.
I mean, maybe I've been watching TC, Tom Cartwright, play a little bit too much of my career, but I wasn't even remotely surprised to see him catch up with that disc. You have the elements supporting you and helping you. There was a point where it disappeared under his body, where I was wondering, has he been ground stripped at all? But holds on to that disc for absolute dear life. Yep, you can see it there, hand underneath it, proper actual, possession gained and maintained as he sort of slips it into his sort of chest pocket, as it were. But yeah, fantastic stuff from Tom Cartwright, and then a very cool and composed disc. Demarais had a little look at it, but stacking the line didn't work out. No,
Demarais had a look at it, but he wouldn't be able to get there without heavy contact. And we'll look again at the catch by Cartwright.
You think heavy to put on it?
As I say, I mean, I was convinced in real time that he'd laid out too late for that, but it's a very, very good catch with the left hand. Nice throw from Abrams, opening up the field for the first time. That's the first deep shot we've really seen from Great Britain. They've been content to play small ball.
Well, they just haven't really been, it hasn't really been working when they've thrown the big hucks before. They've sat too much, but Tom Cartwright had so much separation.
He did.
Almost unreal.
Demarais goes to his knees to catch the first pass. GB with another zony look to try and limit the Belgians here. So a much more straight D-line, although we do have Will Rowledge, who's been playing O for Great Britain out here. Belgians with a very familiar O-line. Van der Rust with the disc. To Demarais, center of the field, just outside the end zone. Comes back on this near side to Van der Rust. To Demarais. To Van der Vega. Belgium not making ground at the moment, but don't really seem to be struggling a huge amount to move the disc. GB content for them to move it side to side by their own end zone. Demarais goes back to Van der Vega. See Hayden Slaughter in the deep space trying to stop those big throws going. The Molinari is in the handler space as well. He clears through now. As we come back over on this near side to Van der Rust. Van der Vega. Belgium content to take the passes GB are giving them, but they're making very few yards at the moment. Dan de Marais on the far side to De Granier. Back to de Marais, who has to again go to ground to catch it. Basically hits him in the gut. You hear the call of Brenda on the sideline. That's GB coming out of their first look, transitioning to whatever the second look is. And Belgium push back into their own end zone, but out of it now. Comes inside, De Granier. De Granier goes deep, and it's a turnover. Can't quite reel it in. It's just a little too flat. He had space, the receiver, but De Granier can't get enough loft on it to complete that pass. And GB's D-line is going to get a chance here to do the 2-for-1 you talked about, Hannah.
Indeed, the buy one, get one free. They're selling them at the supermarket, except they're not. But yeah, I think the psychological pressure of the zone there ending up getting in the heads of the Belgians. Again, a little bit of a frustrated shot.
So it's with Williams, and Williams behind Rolich to Slaughter. I'm not sure that's what he wanted, but it worked out. Bignon with the disc, moves it over to Modiano. Modiano turns down the throw to Slaughter and comes to Morel instead. Morel with the disc now, center of the field on the attacking brick. Morel with the inside, straight to Dan de Marais. Looking for Rolich, but not there. And GB turn it over, and it is now back with Belgium's O-line looking to take half. Muller on that far side. And there's definitely going to be a foul call there. Duvale was waiting for this to come. Morel, you could see a bit of contact in his back. And it goes, there's a call, they're discussing it now, but you could see there was pretty obvious contact from Morel in the back there.
Yeah, a shame, because I think that's sort of one of those ones where a bit of a bad play on defense might give the disc back to the Belgians, where I think Magnus Wilson had a really good position over the top there. Obviously a very tall athlete. I think he's about 6'8", if I recall correctly.
6'8". Had momentum as well. He's coming in with a run, whereas the two under the disc are standing stationary. It's always easy to come in with momentum. So Wilson, I think you're right, Hannah. Without the contact, Wilson probably cleans it up anyway.
I think I'm overdoing it though. I think he's not quite 6'8", but he's certainly a very, very tall lad. And also, like shout out to Mummy Wilson. It's her birthday today.
There we go. Happy birthday to Mrs. Wilson. With de Marais. Sails again. Slightly struggling in this wind, but Van der Vega reels it in and comes back to de Marais. De Marais to Muller. Muller trying to get free in that space, but Williams doing an effective job on him, and instead it goes to Van der Vega. Just outside the end zone. It's De Granier. De Granier looking at that inside space, looking to throw an aggressive option, but there's no option there. Van der Vega swings to de Marais instead, and then De Granier. GB with a kind of saggy, poachy, quasi zone just on the end zone here. Van der Vega, De Granier. Williams guarding that front cone. Van der Vega fakes de Marais, but de Marais looking for space anyway. Offhand throw to de Marais. And de Marais to an open Muller with all the GB poaching. They left Muller open basically in the center of the end zone. Belgium take half, and offenses rule, Hannah.
Indeed, they still continue to do so. Everything on serve. So if this game continues to trade out, of course, it will go in the favour of the Belgians. They started this game on offense, but that was really intelligent spacing from the team in the red shirts. As you say, there was a lot of poaching off, a lot of sagging into the end zone for Great Britain there, and by sort of, it's a little bit of backpedaling from Samoans that really just kind of, it means that you stretch those poachers too far, and that is what exposes the middle space of the end zone for that easy score in the end. But half taken by Belgium, 8-7.
Yeah, a interesting half, good half from both teams, both of them executing well on offense, but they are taking a halftime break. We will take one as well, and we will be back with you shortly.
Those who do not know their history can never relive it. The skies, the dives, the sideline smiles. Our past is held in photo albums, drinking stories. The present is a gift. And here at ULTI.TV, we want to make sure we always appreciate it, capturing the immortal moments of Ultimate from around the world and making sure everyone can enjoy them for free, forever. Because the future belongs to all of us.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
fund
our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.
I love working with the team towards a common goal.
For the camaraderie.
Camaraderie and playing with my teammates.
I play for my team.
Teamwork and the connections that I can build on and off field.
For the community and the exercise.
Because of the community and the competition.
I like playing Ultimate Frisbee for the competition.
I play for the competition and the fun.
For fun.
Because fun.
I love getting to work hard.
You get out of it what you put into it.
Leave everything out here.
Every time I step on the field, I want to be a better player.
You know, give something people to talk about.
Be happy but never satisfied. To step away from real life and focus on Frisbee.
I play because I love Ultimate.
Find your drive.
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 Hello, welcome back to the London Invite. It's still half-time. You can see GB sheltering in the shade, which is a very smart idea because it's already warm, despite the fact it's early in the morning, and this 3G pitch soaks up every single degree of it, Hannah. It is pretty brutal on here.
Oh yeah, we had at EUC back in 2019 the fiery pitch of Mordor, which was a 3G turf, not dissimilar to this one.
You see on the stats here, 8 turns each. It's been a little messy at times, particularly that first GB offensive point. We had several turnovers. 5 clean holds for both teams, so 10 clean holds of the 15 points. So all those turnovers have come in relatively few points. It seems like when we have one turnover, we have more. You know, it's one of those.
Anything you can do bad, I can do bad. Well, worse, I guess.
Worse. But yeah, once the team kind of lose that concentration, it seems like it proliferates all the way through the points. But yeah, all holds, no breaks from either team so far. Both teams have had a look at several breaks. The Belgian D-line with several early on in the game, fewer as we got later on in the first half, but the GB D-line got very close to the end zone on a couple of occasions there. Dan de Marais with an interception on his own end zone line late in the first half. So we are waiting to see who gets that decisive first break.
Who do you reckon, Sean?
It does seem as though GB are trending that way. They're getting more pressure on the Belgian O-line. They are making Belgium take a lot of passes and certainly forcing them out of their comfort zone. But then Belgium have been doing a good job of staying calm and taking the passes that GB D-line's given them. So you see a shot of Dan de Marais there, 4 assists and a block. Just a basically Dan game. That's basically what he does nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Dan de Marais doing Dan de Marais things. We love to see it though. Of course, a really talented athlete having a real explosive season. We've known about him for a little while now, but you know, can you have a breakout season when you're already a big deal? I think probably.
I think so. I think so. It's a step from being one of the players in Europe that everyone knows who's like, yeah, he's a really good player, to being one of the best players in Europe. I think that's the season that de Marais has had so far. I would say probably the front runner for European Player of the Year at this stage, but we are early in the season. We'll see how the rest of the season goes.
Indeed, but I don't disagree.
So it's another good pull from Belgium, putting GB in their end zone, and they come out with a 3-person cup, kind of a retro D here. Oh. Ford on the sideline.
It's been a while since I've seen Junk played.
Ford with the lefty scuba, why not, to Abrams. Abrams in his own end zone in the center of the field. Long, looking for space. Ford, back to Long, looking to go through the cup, but there's no space there. But there's a lot of space on this close sideline. It looks as though Belgium are trying to get GB on this sideline. Pin them on the high side. Make them throw with the wind. And Belgium come out of that zone. Long to Abrams. To Mead. GB still very much looking in the handler area, not looking downfield, although Abrams sends a nice inside break to Ford. Ford with the disc, and there is a stoppage. unclear what the stoppage is, but Ford just threw it backwards out of the pitch. So is the disc. There's a problem with the disc as he might have damaged the disc in this catch. You see he goes down to reel it in, and he might bang it off the turf and bend it. So that could well be the issue here. But it's with Ford. No stall. Looking downfield. Haynes isolated. Has space. Offhand throw to Haynes. Turns down the throw to Rolich. And the throw to Ford. Looking upfield. The inside not there. And that was a strange push pass looking thing to Mead. Doesn't get there, and Swartz knocks it away.
Bizarre attempt at creativity, but that was really great forcing work, nice and flat. Stopping the insides.
So Belgium with another look at this D, and I was going to say we're getting high in the stall, but there looks to have been another stoppage. So Verican with the disc, and everyone has stopped. Ford on the mark. Verican looking downfield. Belgium in a pretty standard three-handler set, looking like a vertical stack downfield. There's to Fuse on this near sideline. Gets it off the sideline well to Verican. A pick called before Verican made that throw. So it's going to go back to him. Bit of a stop-start point for the Belgian D-line here. They're trying to get some momentum going, but a few calls from GB has slowed them down. A couple of pick calls. Verican with the disc. Ford forcing him towards this near sideline. Direct. Good catch under pressure from Simons. Goes back to Verican. Verican goes around the mark to Simons again. Good pressure from the GB O-line. Ford close there. Verican with the disc. A lot of pressure, a lot of high stalls here. And Verican goes deep. Robbie Haynes poaching off the back. But Durian reels it in anyway with a phenomenal read. But Robbie Haynes calling that catch out.
They're going to go and look for our angle from our pole cam.
You can see everyone jogging over. Durian is shaking his head. He thinks he was in. It looks as though someone on the sideline is also calling it out.
Oh, that's just in. My goodness gracious me.
Drops that left foot in. Very, very good footwork from Durian and an absolutely brilliant read.
Oh, Derek, that is. Whoa. Well, I tell you what, we talked about both the D-lines being perhaps, not winning the day, maybe not wanting it as much, and that one was a really, really bit of intelligent shepherding from Robbie Haynes. Very difficult to make that catch under the pressure of the number 8 from GB, but Emil Derek, again, it's just that extra little bit of finesse on the high shots for the Belgians. Just seems to be their edge this season. Maybe some of the great British lads ahead of EUC will be playing some 500s, Sean.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Haynes read it perfectly. He saw it coming out of the hand and drops off. You see him here marking somebody else and drops all the way off. Reads it beautifully. But Direk has good position here, to be fair. Direk is definitely in the right position. And just manages to drop his left foot in, stay in bounds. And that is the first break of the game. And Belgium up 9-7.
And we do have to give a little bit of a kind of disclaimer there, I suppose. Obviously, Robbie Haynes has been playing for a really, really long time, came through college, which is more unusual in the UK. A lot of Ultimate athletes start playing at university when they sort of hit around the age of 18. But Haynes hasn't had as much field time as maybe, so not completely warmed back up into playing Ultimate. He's had to recover from injury. So almost as perfect as you can be as a defender. But what a great catch from the Belgians.
So another spin pull, and GB's O-line going to have to try and slot this in, get the D-line back out to make up this deficit right at the start of the second half. So Mead with the disc. Belgium with another zoney look. Mead looking for a dump, comes to Long and Funk. Mead with the disc now. See a lot of people around the disc. Looks like he calls contact, a little bit of a bump on the mark. We're still in this zone look from Belgium inside their own half. And they break out of it, looking at match. Long with this now. Long breaks the mark to Funk. Inside shot to Rolich. Rolich looking at his options, doesn't like that inside shot. Takes a second inside shot to Funk instead. And a efficient execution from the GBO line there.
Yeah, some marks as close as there from the Belgians that you think they're trying to, you know, pick the back pocket of the person with the Frisbee. But yeah, really nice patient stuff from Great Britain. In contrast, the last time you saw zone out on this pitch was when GB played it against the Belgians, and it rather frustrated them, caused that sort of, you know, ambitious shot. It was poorly executed over the top of the zone, but that was nice pushing it through from the back. Just real patient stuff. And Benjamin Funk, very underrated quality he has. His field sense when he gets into the end zone is really, really finessed. His timing is second to none, really. He's just so good at that, kind of like just waiting, biding, seeing his moment opportunity, and just making the right cut, the right fakes to attack the space and give his throwers really nice options. There's very rarely do you see Funk thrown to in the end zone where it's an awkward cap that he has to really make something of himself. Makes his job and the throw's job really easy.
Yeah, he's done a very good job in the handler space in this game for Great Britain, and a pull from Conrad Wilson goes out of bounds as we hear the time expiring just before that pull. So we're going to finish this point and add one, so we're not going to reach cap. Belgium looking to go out here and make this a game to 11. Van der Vega on the brick mark. Van der Rost on his near side. GB into their secondary D. Van der Rost breaks to Van der Vega. Van der Vega. Over on that far side now. Ooh, Morel. Tight on Van der Vega. Maybe had an option there. Chooses not to lay out. Comes to Demarais. Demarais on the disc. Break to that far side. Muller with the Frisbee. De Crania. Calls from the sideline of GB. Protect the under, but Muller free underneath on that break side. Muller goes down the line. And Bignell clap catches in the end zone. Pushed a little too far by the wind. De Crania can't quite catch up to it. Bignell reads it all the way. And GB's D-line has another opportunity here. And Modiano absolutely rips that, but that is too low. Doesn't quite execute it how he wanted. He had Morel and Williams both going deep. Dan Demarais in the vicinity, so it was an ambitious attempt, but yeah, as you see, doesn't execute that right at all.
Missed opportunity, and that is potentially, I mean, it's not as good as handing the game to your opponents, but that, I don't think we're going to see the Belgians make that error a second time. And they have been better at executing their offense more consistently.
They have so far. They have. So, Belgium with this. Van der Rost throws deep, going for Demarais, and that is too far. There was a pick call. Everyone stops, looking at each other, deciding what to do.
Well, it looks like that one was well before the throw went up. So perhaps some communication from the teammates saying, yeah, Dan, you don't have to run it down. That one was before. It is going to come back.
Yeah. See, Demarais pulls up early on that one, but it comes back to Van der Rost, who has the disc. GB looking to bring this to a universe point. But Belgium determined not to let it get there. Van der Vega moves it over. De Valle. De Crania on that far sideline, looking deep. Puts it into that scuba grip. We saw him throw one yesterday. Didn't go for it this time. Instead went for the easy option, but there's a call and we're back to De Crania. So De Crania on the disc. Demarais in the dump position. Van der Vega looking to get space. Demarais does get space. Turns down the swing. Morel has been sticking to Van der Vega all point, doing a really good job. Kind of running into him there, but Van der Vega reels it in anyway. Good break to Muller. Muller looking downfield, looking for that aggressive option. Looking at Desmarais instead. Good prevent D, and Belgium have to go all the way back to their own brick mark. Desmarais now. And the deep shot goes up, sails beautifully, wonderful execution, catch for Muller. That is an absolutely outstanding throw in the wind.
Absolutely gorgeous. I had to, obviously we're not biased in the booth here, but I had to take a little moment to give that throw some applause as it came in, sailing over the two trailing defenders, Bigmans. Oh my goodness gracious. But that was a really great point for the Belgians, really testing their mettle here. We had two throws that were kind of, you know, lead, fading swing passes that obviously there was a missed opportunity. Unfortunately, Morel went up way too early. Yeah. Similarly to we saw early in the point with Oscar Modiano, you know, there's a sense of a little bit of desperation about the GB D-line in the way that they're playing at points, which is uncharacteristic for them. Normally they're pretty cool, you know, just and calm and getting those blocks in a very feisty manner, but first match point for Belgium. Moment. You said you favoured GB in the half-time, but...
Yeah, but no, Belgium have done a very good job in the second half here. They've been efficient on offense and got that all-important break.
And the team management as well has been second to none. They've pulled people across. It hasn't always paid off, but I think the collective effort of the lines that they've been pulling out, especially with a much shorter roster, has worked out well for them.
Yeah, much shorter roster than GB. GB missing a few. You can see there's a couple of people on the sideline not playing. Sam Cameron here, Joel Terry doesn't appear to be playing, Josh Orcott, but they've got a lot of their roster, a lot more of their roster certainly than Belgium, but Belgium have been executing very well, been making it difficult for GB, and are very much have the upper hand here. So GB O-line out here to try and continue this game. 10-8 game to 11.
Well, we did know from earlier games that GB's D wasn't firing quite as well as it normally does at this tournament. So perhaps the O-line having those stumbles in the early doors, of course, that first opening point for them, 4 turnovers, so maybe unsettled the team as a whole.
East on the far sideline. Belgium into match, coming out of that zone. They started the point in, and Long goes deep, looking for Funk. Funk reels it in. Nice throw again. Tough conditions, it's getting windier, but both teams are finding these very, very nice shots to the end zone.
Yeah, and once again, Funk with an option available in the end zone that wasn't supremely difficult to hit, wasn't under, you know, real heaps of coverage. I'm going to have to watch some games and figure out what it is that Funk does so I can emulate it myself.
I think he just runs pretty fast, mate. I think that's basically what it is.
Well, that's not fair. No, but the thing is, you often see Funk being matched up against personnel who are pretty handy themselves. I mean, Artefuse is absolutely no slack. He's a very fast individual, so to get away from him...
Bigger than Funk as well.
Indeed, indeed. So, you know, you've got to go for both, haven't you? Speed and also sensibility.
So the GB D-line coming back out. You can see the whole squad around the line here. I don't think there's a timeout. It's just taking a while to call it. Are we going to see another power line, bringing some of those O-line guys across?
I think so. Especially because, you know, there have been opportunities in the game for the D-line to get breaks for Great Britain. They just haven't managed to use any of them. I mean, thinking about the sections they've had, they haven't had 2 goes at any of them. Every time they've given the dispatch to the Belgians, it has been held.
The pull from Mark Bignell. Belgium with match point. And we see Justin Ford and Will Rolich both come over from the O-line to play D for this point to try and send this to a universe. So it's with Muller on halfway. Muller looking for an option downfield. De Cranier. So Desmarais. Desmarais in this near sideline. Belgium on the doorstep of winning this game and going to the final. Desmarais with that backhand inside break. Goes to Muller. There's a pick called just before Muller releases, so I think we're going to go back to Muller. Both teams had a forcing backhand, so those backhand inside breaks, both teams have been throwing a lot of them. It seems like it's been making it easier with the force that both teams are choosing. They're choosing to kind of push their opponents towards this sideline. The wind's coming from, and Justin Ford snatches that away, and then a massive layout D by Muller. Wow.
Well, that's why you force backhand. It is a slightly slower throw, does create bigger windows, better windows for you to make those run-throughs. But yes, what a conservation of greatness from Ford.
So it's with the Van der Vega. Goes over the top to Demarais. Demarais breaks the mark. Over on that far side, the Valle. Looking downfield. Wilson dropping off that force to try and stop those insides. Ford comes out of the stack. There's a lot of contact with Demarais. Demarais doesn't call anything. Ford recovers to Beckmans. So Muller. Muller outside the end zone. Belgium so close to winning this game. Demarais to De Cranier. Belgium execute. Belgium take the win, and they are going to the final of London Invite, beating Great Britain 11-9.
Well, that was almost a game of attrition through this. No breaks at all, just trading through the first half, and that one break to open the second half for the Belgians. Real big momentum changer. Just what they needed to put themselves over the top of the trench. But oh my goodness gracious me. Not making the call, I really like that from Dan Demarais. There's no, he's not got any injuries, and he's just action man rolling himself away from the pack. Zero pressure on the throw straight after it. Perhaps a little bit of an ambitious play from Ford. Lots of contact was generated by that, but heck, you've got to have a go at it, haven't you? Especially on home turf. Lots of, obviously, Clapham hosting this tournament. Clapham lands out on the Great British Open side, but absolute hats off to the Belgians. That was very, very good play.
As we see the D from Ford immediately into the layout block from Muller. Great play from Muller. Yeah, Ford, I think that we've seen that a few times. Justin Ford trying to go and make a play. Saw it in the Euros final, on the EUCF final, on the last point, tries to make a play as Ferdy Rogers is catching it. Heavy contact there as well. But as you say, Dan Demarais played through it. Ford was still on the ground, was able to throw to his man, Beckmans, and get the momentum going. See a replay here. Ford giving it a go. Dan Demarais, unfazed, lands, keeps it moving. Belgium move it around the outside of the end zone. Muller goes to Demarais, and Demarais pops the throw into the end zone to De Cranier, and Belgium win. This young Belgian side with a big win against a experienced Great Britain side. They go to the final London Invite. We'll be back to bring you that game later on, but we will be back with you shortly, bringing you one of the women's semi-finals. But for this game,
we're still in round robin stages for the women's division.
Of course, we're still in round robin.
So no, it's okay.
different setup with 5 teams. So
indeed, a nice one for the schedulers to figure out. But that will be GB Women's Masters versus the Stingrays, the Australian under-24s, who of course got that shock sudden death win over the GB Seniors team.
You see there 21 turns in a 20-point game. It's quite high for an elite open game, but I think the wind was tough for both teams, and certainly we saw in the early part of the game, we saw quite a few turnovers. As we got later on, there was a lot more clean play, and that one clean break from Belgium is the difference in this one. So we will leave you. We'll be back soon for that women's game, but for now, I have been Sean Colfer.
I've been Hannah Pendlebury.
And we will be back with you soon.
over. You wanted her, so just give me what I deserve. So can I get some closure? Stay right where you are and don't come closer. If you haven't picked it up, it's over. Run back to her, 'cause I got what I want, kosher. Wasted too much heart on you. Wish I learned to use my head. 'Cause right before I fell for you, I fell right into your bed. I'm not looking for revenge. I don't need you to be my friend. I just want this fake love to come to an end. So can I get some closure? Stay right where you are and don't come closer. If you haven't picked it up, it's over. You wanted her, so just give me what I deserve. So can I get some closure? Stay right where you are and don't come closer. If you haven't picked it up, it's over. Run back to her, 'cause I got what I want, kosher. You wanted her. You left me hurt. But I won't cry as long as I give me some closure. Who you think you are. You're lucky that I don't want revenge. So can I get some closure? Stay right where you are and don't come closer. If you haven't picked it up, it's over. You wanted her, so just give me what I deserve.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, Ultimate.
ULTI.TV.
I might be broken down, but I'm smiling. I keep my head up high, though I fail. Sometimes I get a bit emotional, but then I turn around and let it go. I see you watching me from a distance. I see you can't decide what to feel, but if you dig a little deeper, boy,